Hello, hello, and first of all, welcome. This is Mentor Moments Growing Beyond Failure. My name is Dr. Ahan Hunter, and I am an obstetrician and gynecologist, or OBGYN for short. Thank you all for tuning in. This is the number one podcast, hopefully one day at some point. And the goal is to really reach out to those who either want to go into the field, interested in it, already in it, want some advice, need to know what to do, all the things, not only in OB, but just medicine as a whole. My goal for this podcast is to really reach out, help pull people up. Mentoring is my main goal. I love the idea of reaching back, talking to people of various roles and different phases of their life and helping them figure out what to do with their life. One big task here in the beginning, please like, comment, share, however you can, however you will, this podcast with so many others. My goal is to upload this to multiple channels and venues, but also to get this on various podcast channels, but also, do things through social media also too. My name on Instagram is at Dr. Ahan Hunter. My goal is to create many more with all the things, but the same name. So, find me out there however you can, and then we'll rock and roll. So, number one, this is episode one, entitled Failed, Failed, Failed. And in failing fashion, I actually recorded a full episode, I believe yesterday, and I hit the stop button and nothing happened. Literally, it was not recording at all. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to try this again. So here we go. The reason the name of this episode, failed, 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 dot, 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 comes from this thing. So way back when I was still in high school, my family and I were going to a church. It was about 30 minutes away from where we lived. And on the way home from church, I remember we were on the highway, I-26, driving down the highway, and what we were doing was I would always see the same billboard. And I feel like it was there for years. And I could be wrong, but I feel like it was there for a long time. And on the billboard had a picture of Abraham Lincoln, and it said, failed, 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 dot, dot, dot. Of course, there was more. It said, and then perseverance or something on there. But the failed, 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 dot, dot, dot has always stuck with me because the phrase and the ellipsis that comes with it is the most important part of it is the ellipsis, right? The dot, dot, dot piece, because it's failed, 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 not period, but failed, 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 ellipsis, dot, dot, dot. And the dot, dot, dot to me is the most important part. It describes so many aspects of our life, and me specifically. So I wanted to talk more about my journey, how I have come to become an OBGYN, how I got here, sort of my background, and I feel like sometimes qualifications, right? Because you listen to all these people online and you hear all these folks giving you advice about things. You don't really know exactly what they do and what their background is. So I want to give you mine to hopefully validate the reason I'm doing this and the reason I want to reach out. So, as I said, I mentioned I-26. So I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. I cliche, grew up in humble beginnings. Didn't have a lot. I was the first in my family to go off to college, graduate college, go to medical school. Like I was sort of paving the path for hopefully others to follow. So I didn't really know much about what I was getting into at all. I'm not one of those kids who wanted to go into medicine his entire life. Honestly, I've been fighting it for a long time, or had been for a long time. When I was younger, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a teacher. I thought I wanted to be a chemistry something professor or something because I love chemistry. But medicine kind of just spoke to me. I've had various people, in church. So if you grew up in church at all, especially certain Christian churches, they'll say people will speak life into you. And so I've had various people speak life into me, tell me things that they may have seen in a vision or, felt like God had told him something about me. And I really honestly brushed it off. I was like, whatever. I remember there was a gentleman in the church growing up. I think he was half blind. He was blind in one eye and he was like half blind in the other one. So he barely could see. But I remember one day he walked up to me and he said, randomly out of nowhere, shook my hand really hard. I felt like it hurt. I remember it hurt real bad. I was like, sir. All right, I'm like 12 years old. Back up. My hand, please. I need this. I'm a drummer for the church. Don't hurt me, please. So, but he said, I had this dream last night and I need to call you doctor. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, in my dream, you're a doctor. And I was like, that's cool. Cool story, bro. Not going to do that. Wasn't in my plans, but here we are. So, you know, again, running from it entire life. Went to college, majored in chemistry. I did it not because I wanted to go into medicine, because I want to be a doctor. I did it because I just like chemistry. To say I still love chemistry. So you may even see, I don't know, I have books over here, but there's a chemistry book somewhere on there. So I still, like chemistry. But I said to myself, self, just take the chance, go for it. And it was hard because I even had my advisor who meant well. He was a chemistry teacher, and he asked me what I wanted to do. I had to sit down with him, ask me what I wanted to do, and I told him, hey, I think I really want to become a doctor. And he told me, I don't think medical school is for you. So he then shared his story with me. He tried to go into med school, did not make it. I guess he tried again a year later, didn't make it. Ended up going to graduate school, got his PhD in chemistry, and now is a chemistry professor. So he was trying to steer me more that route, I believe. He just was like, maybe this is not for you. Your grades aren't amazing. You haven't followed the pathway of others. And so maybe it might not work out. And it's funny that when we give advice to people, we give advice based on what we think the outcome is going to be, and on we're playing the odds, right? So if you were to tell me, hey, Dr. Hunter, I think the odds of you being able to be a professional NBA player is about 1 in 1,000. Maybe you should switch that up. What I would say, argue, is if you have this fire deep within you that no matter what you try to do, it's telling you that you're going to be an NBA player, that 1 in 1,000 should be encouragement, because that means all you got to do is beat out 999 other people, right? You just got to beat out the others, and then you can then make it. So to me, we need to change the way we think and how we advise others, because we constantly are telling people you can't do a thing because maybe it won't work. But I feel as though in my heart of hearts that maybe it won't work is not the right way to go about it, right? The right way to go about it is to say, but what if it does, right? What if I gave you tools in your toolbox to be able to conquer the thing that you want to do, to make it to the place you want to go to? If I just could change your outlook, if I could just give you more assistance, what if that then changes your odds, right? We're just telling people based on what we see right now in front of us here in the right now, this is what you can do. But what if I told you that if I helped you study more, helped you figure out how to get a better grade in this class and this thing, then maybe that then will change your odds, and then your chance of success is much higher. I liken it to, I always think about this all the time. I'm a huge sports fanatic. I love all sports, just all of them. But especially NFL, NBA. I love professional sports, specifically. And I always think it's so interesting that you can have father-son combinations go into the NBA, NFL, right? Or brothers, like the Watt brothers, for instance, get into the NFL. Both brothers get into the NFL. The chance of one person making it to the NFL from high school is 1 in 1,000s, right? Thousands. But now you're telling me two brothers who aren't like twins, right? They're years apart, but somehow they were given just a slight edge, just were taught something just a little bit different. They were told to do just this one little tweak, and that helped to propel them to eventually then make it to the NFL. To me, that's the difference, right? It's not the innate tools that you were just born with. Someone helped to cultivate a gift that was in them, to help them then make it to the NFL, make it to where they want to go. And to me, I think that is the point now of this podcast, to give you just a little extra oomph to be able to make it, to say that I can. I digress, but to get back, I applied for medical school. I applied to, I think, 14 places. I actually got a grant to be able to apply for a very low cost. So I was able to apply all over. And I was able to interview at all the South Carolina medical schools. I think it was the only schools I actually interviewed for. And I was able to get into multiple schools. And to me, that was such a great gift in a sense because, up until that point, I just didn't know. Like in my heart of hearts, I didn't have that fervor of like I'm gonna get in. It was more of like, man, Lord, I hope so. Um, but my backup was to become a chemistry teacher, so I was preparing myself, but my mind wasn't really ready yet. But once I got the yes, it's like a switch just like flipped in me. That all of a sudden I was able to muster up this intense drive to not only get there and make it, but also to succeed highly. Now, up until medical school, I didn't really fail much at anything. A lot of the things I attempted to do, I was able to put forth just a little extra effort in and was able to successfully do those things. I played the oboe. I taught myself how to play the drums, taught myself to play a little bit of piano. I'm not great, but a little bit of piano. Like I taught myself to do things. And it didn't really, I didn't get a lot of frustration in the sense of like I need to quit because I just can't make it, right? There weren't people telling me, oh, you can't do it. I had a lot of encouragement in those things. But for the first time in my life, when I went to medical school, I had a lot of failures, a lot of them. And one of those failures happened in the first year of med school, failed my first test. And at that time, the failing the test did not make me fail the class, so which was good, but it just told me that, hey, you have to be 10 times better just to be average. And that's just how my body, how my brain worked. Like I had to work 10 times harder than others just to be in the middle, just to make it grade wise in the middle. I knew mentally, I knew emotionally, I knew socially that I could make it, right? I have this gift, I think this God given talent to be able to just sit and talk to people. Hence why I think podcasting really speaks to me because I can pretend as if I'm sitting in front of an audience of people and give you all this advice, and I literally see not a soul in front of me. So I have that gift, but like, how do you get to the point to where you then can use that gift in a medical setting? So what I had to do is to teach myself that I have to just like put forth this extra effort constantly, that the failures cannot be the thing that define me, right? Like I need to define my ellipsis, my dot, dot, dot after the fail, fail, fail. So I failed my test, whatever. People fail tests, fine, fine. Cool beans, not a thing. But the one of the biggest hits that I had when I was in med school was there are these things called steps, step tests, or there's step 1, 2, and 3. You have to pass them all to eventually become a doctor, full-fledged physician. And I passed step 1, did not get a great score on it. I was like, oh God, like what am I going to do? The scores usually help dictate what you can or cannot do, or at least that's what I was told, right? The tests have now become that first one's become pass fail, but back then it was scored. So I was like, ooh, Lord, so I got to crush step 2. So at the time, you take step 1, I think, before you start leaving out and doing rotations out in all the different fields. So I do step 1, do all my rotations. I discover that I fall in love with OBGYN. Like it was an old girlfriend that I missed. Like I just had to go back to it. And so I went back to it, but this time it's actually healthy. Don't go back to old girls, but this time it was healthy. So I get back to it, and I then get to my 4th year of medical school where I have to take then the step 2. Step 2 is historically supposed to be easier than step 1, even though no one told me that it's twice as long. So step 1 is about an 8-hour test, I believe. Step 2 is I think it's oh no, excuse me. Step 1 is like a 4-hour test. Step 2 is like an 8-hour test. I was like, what are y'all doing to me? Like, why are you torturing me this way? But here we are, fine, whatever. So I go to take the test. I then finish the test, leave. You get the scores, I think like a month later or something. And after I take the test, I'm in the middle of what's called an acting internship, which is where you're a 4th year med student, but you're supposed to act as if you have finished med school and now you're a first year resident or doctor in training. And I'm supposed to just be out here crushing it so I can get a good recommendation, and then that way then lead me to be able to get better interviews. So I'm in the middle of this rotation. I get a phone call. Hey, you got to come to the dean's office. We got to talk to you literally right now. I'm like, okay, pulled off the rotation. I find out in front of administrators that I failed step 2. And now my world has like been flipped upside down. What do I do? Am I going to finish med school in time? Am I going to graduate? Like, what? Am I dumb? Like, I don't think I'm dumb. My entire life, I felt like I've been a high functioning individual in society. Like, what's going on? So I'm trying to just figure this all out. And what I ended up doing was I said, you know what? Time to lock in. Like, let's go. And so what I did was I literally went home. I was allowed to get a month to study. I went home. I locked myself in a room, and I just studied for hours every single day in this same room. There was an extra room in the apartment I was renting that I had, where it was just a desk, a chair, and nothing on the wall, and my computer. I put my computer on the desk. I had my like books or whatever to study with, and I put on this wall. I went to a conference, and on this conference, I got this lanyard, and it said ACOG, American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. It's a governing body for all of OBGYN. And on this lanyard, it was just sort of a blank space that said my name is, and it was blank. I wrote Dr. Hunter. Now, at the time, I was not a doctor. I was in med school. So I wrote Dr. Hunter, and I looked at that bad boy every single day. And as I was studying, I stared at it. I almost like ingrained. I dreamed about it. I dreamed that I was wearing that lanyard, but I had the real one with the full Dr. Hunter on it. Like, I just focused so much on it that I just couldn't see myself not doing it. I was like, I kept telling myself that I'm a Christian, right? I told you I went to church, and so that's part of where my values come from. And if that's not you, that's okay. But that's just where my values come from, and where I then build and get strength from. And I would say to myself, God, you called me to do this thing, and though I failed and others have told me I probably should take a year off, I probably shouldn't do it. I've been told all these things, but you were the one who told me keep going, that you will take care of me if I keep going. And I just kept telling myself that over and over and over again. So I studied for a month, took the test, passed it. I'm like, let's go. Problem. At the time when I failed, all of the places I requested interviews for only saw the failure, right? They had failed, period. They didn't have failed, ... So I got rejected left and right. Rejected. And I'm just like, Lord, if you just let just a few people take just a chance on me, I promise I'm going to crush it. So I ended up interviewing multiple places, and I ended up, there's something called a match. So you find out, you interviewed all these places, you rank them. I ended up interviewing at 10 places. I ranked all 10. And once you rank them, the places you interviewed at also then will rank the people that they have interviewed. So the programs interview way more places, like some interviewed 60, 100 different candidates. So here nor there, but they rank them. And so it goes into some computer system. And then on the same day of the year, all medical residents that are fourth year that are going to match find out at the same time across the country. You, at 12 p.m. on whatever that day is, you open up an envelope and then you find out where you're going to go. I had no clue leading up to that point where I then was going to spend the next 4 years of my life. Open up the envelope. Oh my God, I matched. I'm going to go to VCU and I'm going to train and become an OBGYN. What in the world? My dream had then come true. That was the moment I realized that my dream had come true, that all the things I'd worked for, all the failed didn't matter anymore. It was all about the ellipsis here. It was about the ... Holy cow, I almost cussed. This is supposed to be PG, so I'm not going to cuss. Holy cow, look, Ma, I made it. At the time when I got into medical school, which I started med school 2013, I had this thing in my mind where I'd been thinking about the statistics that I saw. So when you looked at the data from 1978 to 2014, right? Remember I told you I started in 2013, and you look at the number of black men that were just applying to medical school, just like applying to med school. 1978, there were just over 1,400 black males that registered and applied to medical schools across the country. 1978, mind you. Jump forward, 2014. What's that math? 12. Sorry, I don't know what that is. I think it's my water doing something. But keep going. Jump ahead all the way to 2014. Excuse me, that's 36 years later. The number of black males that applied to medical school in 2014 was just over 1,300. So we're saying from 78 to 2014, 100 less black males applied. We didn't say get in. We just talking about just applied for a shot, right? This goes to that same data, that same statistics. Like when I speak about, I'm talking about the Watt brothers. I speak about the different athletes, the McCourtys, there's all these athletes of just family members, like brothers, maybe even cousins that have gotten to the league. Like how substantial what those numbers really mean. And again, the thing that I will harp on over and over and over again, podcast after podcast, episode after episode, is constantly going to be mentoring. How do you use mentors to help you get to where you want to go? We talk about mentors in a way differently in sports, right? You call them trainers. You may call them mentors, coaches, assistant coaches, strength coaches, all these different people that speak life into you, whether you call it that or not, but that's what it is. Like, there aren't enough people to do that for people of color or just people in general. When you look at the number of just overall applicants over the last 5 years, each of the last 5 years, there have been less and less people just applying for med school. And that's just applying, right? Because I think we've been just embedded with all of this information and this feeling that, oh my God, becoming a doctor is so difficult. It's so hard. How am I going to do it? What's the debt? Oh my God, med school costs so much more money now than it did years ago. Like, can I afford to go to med school? I don't have any money now. No one is able to help me get loans. How am I going to accomplish this thing and do this thing? And I will challenge you over and over again. If you have this drive, if you feel like in the heart of hearts that this is what you're supposed to do, that you feel like you have to become a physician, like your goal in life is to become a physician, don't stop. Just go. All the other things will follow. The money comes and goes. Loans come and go. And it sounds crazy to say that because loans are not seem to be coming and going anytime soon, but they come and go. The amounts go up, they go down, but becoming a physician is a once in a lifetime opportunity that you have to grasp and you have to seize in your season, at your time. You get to a point sometimes as you get older that you don't have the drive anymore. You feel like you don't have the energy. You don't have the oomph. I don't think if I had put off med school until this point in my life, in now my 30s, to me now to then attempt to apply, that I'd be able to do it. I just don't have the fervor that I did then as I do now. My fervor, my drive is a little bit different because I'm now a physician. So my drive comes in spurts because that's just what I need to do my job every day. But I don't have that drive to just sit in a room for a month straight to just study for a test constantly 8, 9, 10 hours. Actually, it was longer than that, 12 hours a day. Like, I just don't have that now. Maybe it's my ADD that kicks in. I don't know. But I just don't have that right now. But so that's why I will tell you, that's what this podcast is for, to help you decide, you know what, I can do it. This is the thing that I can do. I can get up and go. Let's go. Let's do it right now. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait. Excuse me. I'm from Charleston. I don't really speak real English. So tomorrow. Don't wait for tomorrow. Do it now, because tomorrow, as the old folks used to tell me, isn't promised today. So you don't know what tomorrow brings. Get up and just do it now, whatever that thing is. And you may be listening to this and saying to yourself, I don't want to become a physician, but I want to end up becoming an accountant. I want to be a sports manager. I want to be a physical therapist. I want to become a principal of a school. I don't care what it is. Whatever that thing is that has been supplanted inside of your heart and your brain, that you feel that you are called to do, just do it. Like, you just get up and you just go. Because otherwise there would be there's no way that you'd have that drive and you would love your job and love your life if you don't just do the thing that you love. I love my job. It is a job at times, but I thoroughly enjoy going to work every single day. Now, do I work a lot? Am I on call a lot? Of course. Would I like to be on call less? Of course. But I work 24-hour shifts from time to time. I work 12-hour shifts. I work 16 hours. Sometimes I work 18 hours. I work a long time. If I didn't love my job, I wouldn't be able to work all those hours because I would be absolutely miserable. I am not at the point where I feel as though I am burnt out, which many physicians will feel like they are. I strongly feel like I'm just getting started. Now, I've been out of residency for a few years now, so I haven't been doing this for like 10 years or so, but I just truly feel like I'm just getting started. Hence why we're here, right? Mentoring moments, growing beyond failure. This is it. This is us. That's why we're here. Because I'm like, let's go. Let's just make it happen. Now, I'm energized. I'm super excited about what's to come. But there's a few things to know about me a little bit more. Again, I gave you some of my background, some of my credentials, but the other things to know. I am a trained OBGYN. I went to medical school. I went to college. I did all the years of all the stuff that I was supposed to do. I do not have any extraneous degrees. I don't have a master's in nothing. I don't have a PhD in anything. I haven't gotten certificates and stuff. I just did the high school, college, med school, residency. Boom, here we are. So, my goal as we go throughout this podcast is to basically use others that are experts in the field to help answer a lot of questions. So, this is not just going to be me. In the beginning, I want to start out with the journey, talking about all the different things, all these different ideas and topics that I have in my brain that's always going like a million miles a minute. But I do want to take the time to highlight certain people, careers, questions that you may have, contract negotiation. How do you choose a residency program? How do you choose a med school? How do you decide if you want to become a doctor at all? How do you choose a field of medicine to even get into? How do you even talk about, excuse me, different, like I said, contract negotiations and what to ask for? How do you decide what practice to work for? I don't know why I'm making a thumbs up and why this thing keeps doing that, but we're just going to go with it. I don't know why all these things, but here's the thing to know. My goal is to answer a lot of questions. At the end, once we get going and social media starts popping, I will have you guys send me DMs in my social media ideally through Instagram. And my goal is to take time to answer a lot of those questions. Some of the podcasts are just going to be question and answer sessions, trying to go through and answer all the questions I can. Some of the questions are going to then be converted to a new podcast episode, maybe by themselves. And if I need an expert in that field, I'll call a person. I know a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people. I have had the same phone number since I was 12 years old. And every phone number that has been put in my phone is still there. I don't delete any numbers. So there are people who don't know that I'm going to reach out to them. Get ready. It's going to happen. A lot of different folks, because I feel like, the goal is you meet a lot of people. You got to reach back out. You got to let them know you're thinking about them. I think they're an expert. I think they're fantastic. Come chit chat with me. Come on the pod. Let's roll. So that's the goal. That's the plan. Thank you all for listening this far in. I really appreciate it. Again, this is Mentor Moments, Growing Beyond Failure with Dr. Ahan Hunter, the OBGYN. My Instagram is at Dr. Ahan Hunter. That's it. All the other socials will be the same I'll list them all as they all pop through. Do I have many followers? Absolutely not as of today. But guess what? It's going to happen because I believe it. I feel it. And it's gonna happen. My goal is not to be famous. I don't really care too much about that. My goal is just to really reach out to a lot of people. I know there are folks across the country, even around the world, that want to know more about what I do, what we do, and how we do it. And so that's what this podcast is for. Medical podcasts, not only for medical professionals, but also for the lay people. So I'm going to answer questions that a lot of lay persons may have. So there's certain episodes you guys are going to skip. If you're a medical professional, you're going to be like, I know what a nurse practitioner is, but not all lay people do. And they don't know what the difference is. So that's what we're going to talk about. And we're going to address it. And we're going to go over it. They're fantastic, FYI. But you got to understand as a lay person what the goals are, what the training is, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to get there. We're going to roll. Go with me. Be with me. Walk through the journey with me. I'm going to hold your hand through it. If you don't want to hold my hand, that's fine. I'll just walk with you and we'll chit chat and talk. Thank you guys again. I really appreciate all of the love, all of the listening to the entire thing. This first podcast is dedicated to a lot of people in my life that have helped me get to this point. One of those people is the Lord above. Another one is my wife, who is one of the most supportive individuals I've ever met in my entire life. That woman takes care of me on a daily basis. I don't know what my life would be without her. I am so grateful for her. I want to also special thanks to, excuse me, my family, including my mother. You know, I'm a mama's boy, sorry. My mother, and another special thanks to a lot of people at work who have really encouraged me and pushed me to do things like this. A lot of medical students, a lot of colleagues and professionals who constantly say, hey, we really think you should do it. So here we go. We're rocking. Another special to one big thing as we wrap things up. You guys will see on this bookcase back here, everything that's on here is not strategically placed, but it has meaning, a lot of meaning. So as we go through the episodes, I'm going to talk about all the different things that are here, who these random people are, who this, wrong hand, this random guy is here, right there. And we'll chit chat. The one thing to know is that guy up there, his name is Cameron Kimber. He is no longer with us. He took his life my first year of residency, and it was probably one of the hardest moments and the hardest things I had ever had to get through. And the biggest accomplishment I have, I really put towards him in a way, dedicate to him in a way, because he really helped push me in ways that I didn't know I could be. I mean, he was one of the best friends I've ever had in my entire life. He was a brother. He is a brother. And he gets a special place on the pod and a special place on the shelf because I love that guy. He was one of a kind. And so, we'll talk about things as we go. The little drawing here means something. I don't know what it means yet, but it means something. I'm just kidding. I do know. But it all means a thing. So again, thank you guys for being with me. Again, this is Mentor Moments, Growing Beyond Failure with Dr. Ahan Hunter. Thanks again. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the love. And tune in for episode 2.